and welcome to The Apex, a weekly discussion with the titans and tastemakers of the automotive world. This week we are excited to host one of Britain's most promising racing talents, rally driver and Red Bull sponsored athlete Catie Munnings. Catie shot to fame in 2016 after winning the FIA European Rally Championship Ladies Trophy, the first Briton to win a European rally title for 49 years. She's since gone from strength to strength into the WRC and is at the cutting edge of FIA-sanctioned offroad racing, having recently joined the Andretti United Extreme E team for the inaugural 2021 season. Catie, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to chat to you guys.
So my first question is, you're an all-round athlete and a keen motorcyclist as well as a rally driver. Could you tell us about how you got into rallying and what attracted you to it over circuit racing, motorcycle racing, or even other sports?
I think I actually started out in loads of other sports when I was at school. I was one of those kids that just did everything outdoors to try and avoid going inside. So I loved, and I was competing up to national level in athletics and pentathlon. I was working every day with a coach after school. And then I went into dancing and I loved that as well. So Then we were in like a national netball team. I absolutely loved that. So I think being active has always been, and the competitive side probably has always been in my blood. And when I was growing up, my dad, he used to be a rally driver actually, but only he never really had the budget to do it properly, but he's very fast. And his results, he was actually faster than the guy that went on to be world champion. It just never had the right shot for him. So he then started like a rally school at Brands Hatch Rally School and the London Rally Schools, and he was instructing there. And then after that, he started a motorsport entertainment company, which he ran from a family farm. And that's where I grew up. So that's kind of how I got into motorsport. Not necessarily the competition side, but more I would grow up and come home from school and there'd be loads of instructors out on quad bikes in the field and I'd go and join them, or I'd be driving around old cars. It was kind of a very, very varied upbringing. It wasn't like my dad sat me down and said, right, okay, you're going to go into motorsport, you're going to start karting. I think the off-road element initially attracted me because that's what I found fun. I love the changing conditions. I love the instinct that you have to have as a driver to react in that moment. I hadn't come from like an engineering background as single seater often is, with you're working, you know exactly which gear you're going to be in for which corner, and your engineer is able to manage loads of different things. It was more of a instinctive and spontaneous kind of passion that I had, that I followed into rallying. So I think that's probably why I chose rally over more conventional forms of motorsport, should we say.
Oh, that's a really interesting way of putting it. It seems like that kind of instinctive element and that sort of being on the edge of control is definitely something you get with off-road racing. And I can see, I've never had it really explained that before. That makes perfect sense. So moving on, you won the FIA European Rally Championship Ladies Trophy at a young age, and you've been working up to being a really serious competitor in the WRC. In your experience, what skills does a good rally driver need, and what sort of mindset helps you achieve your best stage times?
I think number one, and there's so many people out there that are so talented. I know so many people that I've come across in my career, other drivers, even engineers, mechanics that are really talented behind the wheel. And I think the number one thing is just having the opportunity to drive. It sounds stupid. It sounds, when you think of it, it's not really like just picking up your tennis racket and going and playing tennis. But I think the whole thing around budget in motorsport and that stigma and how kind of inaccessible it is for people is a really tough pill to swallow. And I think it's the biggest limiting factor that we have in motorsport. And it was me for absolutely years. I'd always, even still to this day, kind of when I was in the European Championship, I was still running off my teammates' secondhand tyres that he'd take off after he'd finished in service, but they were still quite good enough for me as I couldn't afford to be there and have fresh set of tyres every service. So I think that is the biggest thing. If you can get back into do it properly, I think it's very much luck of the draw, and it's a really hard one because people often say, "Oh, how do you start out in motorsport?" And I think you just got to work with what you've got, and almost psychologically, don't try and control what you can't control. There's always people that are going to be out testing more than you. There's always people going to have more budget. They're going to be doing more rallies with more experience, and that's just life, I think. And it's just about making the best of what you've got and not overwhelming yourself, thinking about what other people are doing.
Does that count in the seat as well? Because I've been watching onboards of yours, and what really struck me is that as you're going down these twisting tracks, you'll have your co-pilot giving you the instructions, and the mental load of having to deal with the road, the instructions, all of the small judgments you have to make as you're going down the course. I mean, are you in some sort of flow state? Have you noticed that there are certain competitors who are better or worse at that? Or did you have to learn how to just handle all of that information at once?
I think it's definitely a case of being in the flow. When I was starting out, my dad always used to say to me, "You'll know that you've done a good stage when you get to the end and you think, how have I got here?" And I always used to think, what are you talking about? Because you're really trying to focus on the pace notes. But actually, after you've written your pace notes yourself, it's your own language. And after a few rallies of practicing with it, it is like speaking English in the same way that I'm not really thinking about the words that are coming out my mouth to you right now. It's the same sense of translating it when a co-driver is telling you where the road's going to go. A 3 left, you don't even think about what that is anymore. You just envision, you know exactly how much you need to turn the steering wheel, how the car is going to slide beneath you. And then it frees up your mind for other things, for the little details that you need to be watching out for on the road. And I think it also depends on where you are mentally. If you're really nervous or anxious, or if you're stressed, all of those things massively impact you. I know, for example, when I had a massive crash on one of the rallies that I did, and Brian Bouffier, who is obviously an amazing rally driver, he said to me, "You've got to have a goldfish memory in rallying. You can't go into the next day thinking, oh my God, I crashed yesterday. What if I do it again today?" Or he said, even down into the split second, if you have a near crash on a stage and it kind of shakes you up a bit. I mean, we've all been there on the road and you get that kind of adrenaline rush through your body.
And you don't tell anyone afterwards.
No. Yeah, exactly. That's it. But you spend the next sort of 3 minutes thinking about it and thinking, oh, what happened there? But obviously in a rally, it's really easy to do that as well. And then you've missed the next pace note. And then that's often when the bigger crashes happen. So I think it does take a while in motorsport. And I work with a sports psychologist who created this MP3 for me, which is awesome. It kind of simulated the start of a rally stage. So it would be going through time controls, the sound of the engine, all into the correct time as to how the rally would begin. And I'd just sit at home and I'd listen to it, and you just go through the emotions, and then you start getting yourself into, and he used to say, right, feel happy and confident and calm, because for me that was what worked. I know for some drivers it's psyching yourself up or whatever, but for me, I can always focus better when I'm calm and really focused, and also having confidence as well. And we used to use a trigger of putting my gloves on, and I'd put the gloves on, and then that would kind of trigger, apparently this is getting quite sciencey now, but apparently when I would then put my gloves on in real life, it's made that kind of, you've already built that neuron connection. It's like building a muscle. So it's just a natural reaction, is to get yourself into this calm and happy and confident state. So I think that took me a while, because obviously sometimes I'd go into it really aggressive and I just try too hard. And then often when you try too hard is when you're the slowest, I think.
Well, that's absolutely fascinating. I don't think we've ever had anyone on the podcast who's described those kind of triggers, but as you say, it makes complete sense to get into that sort of mindset. And I suppose some people find it easier than others. Moving on, I wanted to talk about something that everyone's been talking about, which is the new Extreme E Championship. We've got huge names like Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button participating as team owners and attracting the world's best drivers. You're part of the powerhouse Andretti United team alongside Timmy Hansen. What excites you about the championship, and what drew you to it?
Oh, I just think it doesn't sound like it will happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember when I first heard it, probably last year, and I had a call with Extreme E. They wanted me to be in the driver's pool. We had to have a couple of calls, because at first I was like, but this is dreaming, isn't it? It'd be a floating paddock that's going around to the Amazon in Greenland.
Yeah,
I was
amazing.
thinking, what are you talking about? How is that going to work? And so I think that's probably the element of unknown, which is still there in many ways. We were talking last week, I was at the launch on the boat, and you're seeing all the bedrooms just being fitted, and they've got science laboratories going in, and it's just crazy seeing it happen in real life. And to the point when they're like, oh yeah, we haven't got any phone signal in like half the places that we're going. So you're thinking, right, we're going away racing, we're not going to have any phone signal for the whole time that we're there. We're doing these amazing conservation projects before we race, and then we're racing in some of the biggest in-demand spots for people to travel around, backpacks and that kind of thing. And I just thought, wow, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to say yes to this one. And then the fact that so many, I signed up way before kind of all the big names entered, and the fact that now the racing is so it's like the race of champions for some of the teams that have lined up. And I signed up with Andretti United quite early on, and I'm really happy that I'm with that team. It's a really family vibe, and I think Timmy is my perfect counterpart. We just click instantly. He is the male version of me. It's ridiculous, down to the point that we both have the same like eating habits. We have to eat every couple of hours, otherwise we get hangry. I think he is the male version. So yeah, I'm just really excited to get going, and nobody knows what's going to happen, but that's part of the fun, I think.
Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic pairing. And also, I was looking at the driver roster. I mean, people like, I think Lewis Hamilton's team, Sebastian Loeb and Cristina Gutierrez. I mean, seriously major names from all over motorsport. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be brilliant. And the car itself, the Odyssey 21, a question we were really curious about, because I know you've been testing. How does it compare to rally cars in terms of, power delivery and car dynamics? What is it like driving one of those things?
I think it's actually easier in a way. Having driven kind of the equivalent, four-wheel drive rally car, I think it is much easier in the sense that you don't have so much to think about. There's no gears. You don't have to, and that sounds stupid, but it's quite a big part of rallying when you're coming up to a corner and there's often a lot to do. Say you're coming up to a sudden hairpin, you've got to bang down the gears and grab the handbrake. But whereas now you're just kind of braking and just getting ready with the handbrake. So it takes a lot of the stress out from a driving side. One of the obvious things is the noise. I grew up I'm a petrol head. I've absolutely loved standing in the forest and hearing the cars go past and, the whole environment that brings. But I think it's coming whether we like it or not, sooner or later. And I think the next generation won't know any different. So it's just one of those things that we have to adapt to. But yeah, from a driving side, it was quite funny the first time that me and Timmy sat next to each other, because you sit on the start line and you don't get as revved up because you don't hear the noise of it. So it's just quite a shock when you accelerate, and you accelerate is kind of more powerful than a WRC car, and it's just this crazy juxtaposition of being so calm and quiet, and having so much instant torque coming out of corners, which is nice because it kind of, I was saying to Tim, you could make a lot of mistakes and still look a hero in this. You don't really have to carry the momentum because you just have instant torque all the time. But it's funny, like things that you wouldn't think about, like locking wheels, for example. Normally in a rally car or a rallycross car, when you lock the wheels, the first thing the first sense that you have of that is the sound of the knocking.
Interesting.
And you don't get that at all in the Extreme E car. It's just this kind of silence, and you have to then readjust. And me and Timmy didn't even realize we were locking wheels to start with, because obviously it's normally such a powerful noise. And we just had to start learning to feel it a bit more through the seat and through our bums and be a bit more sensitive to it from that side. So yeah, it is an adjustment, but I wouldn't say it's kind of overpoweringly different. It's still an awesome race car. I think hopefully people will be kind of accepting of the fact that the world is moving into the electric state and just kind of take it for what it is.
It's interesting when you say that actually driving this electric race car actually makes you more mechanically sympathetic, because you have to figure out other ways of feeling what the machine is doing. I mean, were you and Timmy swapping notes all the way through testing and kind of tweaking and learning the car as you were going?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we first kind of got involved with Extreme E, the format was going to be that it would be a male and female. One's driving, one's co-driving, and then you switch, and the other one drives, the other one co-drives. So we were always assuming that we would be together in the car. So that's kind of what we were prepping for in our minds. It was only quite recently that they decided it would be one at a time. So even in our preparations, but then also when we were testing, even when we did know it would be one at a time, we both decided that we wanted to sit next to each other, because you don't get a lot of time in these testing environments, and especially with the kind of battery testing, which is another thing. We're used to just chucking petrol in and going, whereas we now have to wait a few hours for the battery to charge between kind of testing blocks. So I think it was important for us to feel everything that we could, whether it was through the driver's side, the co-driver's side, because you're almost learning doubly as quickly if you've both felt something in that moment, as opposed to when Timmy comes in and says, oh, the car did this and I haven't felt it for myself. So yeah, and he is an awesome guy. I was quite nervous about the whole teammate situation, especially between some of the top names in motorsport, and then us girls as well, because I was thinking, it has to be a team sport, and I really hope I get someone that will recognize that and we'll work together on it, and it won't kind of continue in the way that motorsport's kind of been a single person or individual sport. And he completely gets it, and he's kind of sat down in testing, and he was like, well, there's no point in me driving fast if you're not going to be fast, so I think we should really work together on this, and we can make both of us fast. And then by the end of testing, it was like, okay, you're faster on this corner than me, I'm faster on this corner than you, so what are you doing? And we'd overlay the onboards, and he's a perfectionist from that side, which is really useful for me as well. And obviously sharing a car, it's the same setup, so you both have to adapt, and I think the ones that are successful in Extreme E, the teams that are successful will be the ones that are able to do that and are able to work together as a really solid unit.
Well, that's a fascinating insight into those dynamics. I'm excited just listening to you talk about it. really to get to kick off. So I guess we're kind of touching on modern racing and rallying here, because I think part of being a modern racing or rally driver is, I think, the increased media focus. We've got this 24-hour news cycle and the need to have a personal brand, it seems. How do you think this makes the role of a driver in 2021 easier or more difficult than back in the day, perhaps? And what have your experiences been of the professional world up till now?
I think definitely from the world outside motorsport, but the kind of world that's around it. For example, when you think about the brands that sponsor it, I think this new championship is opening up the doors, really. There's no brand that I can really think of that wouldn't want to align with it. I know that there's a lot of talks, and that you see sponsors dropping out of combustion racing because they're moving in other directions, and they're working on making themselves more carbon neutral. And even car manufacturers pulling out now because they want to focus on the electric side and not kind of put budget and emphasis into the combustion side. I think it's a really good place to be professionally, as a championship, as a driver, thinking of your career and also the future of motorsport as a whole. Is putting the emphasis in the right direction. And actually, when you look at it, and when I've spoken to people in the industry, even sponsors or manufacturers, actually the interest around it is so much bigger than conversations that I've had around combustion in the past. And I think it's just, there's a general awakening at the minute. I know that it's also one of the highly talked about and discussed topics, because it's not that welcomed as well in some kind of traditional fans and that side of things.
Absolutely, yeah.
I completely, I get it, and I was that person. I more than anyone will stand in the freezing cold in Wales just to hear the car zoom past me. I completely understand it.
Yeah.
But I think that, it is inevitable. And I was watching the news last night, and Jenson Button was on there talking about Extreme as well. And he just said it's coming, whether we like it or not. And I think the best thing that we can all do is we can guarantee that there will be exciting racing. That's hands down. That's nothing to do with the car or the noise or anything. That's to do with the people that are behind it, the teams that are behind it, and the championship formats that we're producing. So Extreme is ticking that box. I know the noise thing is the biggest thing for most people, and I understand that. But I just think you're not going to walk away from an event smelling of petrol fumes. I don't really know what to say. I just think, we'll let it grow out of it, and the next generation won't know any better, and they will be just excited by the electric racing as we were growing up with the petrol racing, I think.
So it sounds like it's a good opportunity for all of this to be very much a kind of driver-led scene as well. I mean, as you're talking, I'm just thinking of, people like Lewis Hamilton, who seem to dictate what people focus on in Formula One in all respects. So it's a really interesting time for that. And on media, you've had a media career as the presenter of Catie's Amazing Machines on CBeebies, and I know that you've raced in some very high profile events like the ice race in ZLMC for Bentley. Just taking all of that as a whole, are there any non-rally cars or machines that you've encountered during those races and programs which you particularly enjoyed driving?
Oh, so many. That's such a difficult question. God, that's more difficult than where you see yourself in 5 years, I think. I think when I was doing the CVB show, it was literally every day was so much fun. I'd be filming 2 different machines every day. So it was really full on at the time. And, don't get me wrong, sometimes I was like, what am I doing? I'm absolutely crazy for taking this on, as well as
it's about 20 episodes, wasn't it? I mean, it's quite long.
Yeah, but we filmed it all in a really short space of time. And it was bang in the middle of my European Championship season. So obviously Beavis had its own deadlines. So it would literally be, I'd fly back from an event and go straight into filming, and vice versa. And in the end, I was thinking, I'm if I went into another year of this and they had another 2 seasons commissioned, I just thought I will just be doing half a job on each, and that's not who I am or where I want to be. So it was a tough decision, but yeah, I mean, doing it, I mean, I got some amazing stuff. I drove like a snowplow up in Val Thorens ski resort before the lift opened for the day, and I created this jump, and the sun was just coming up, and I think that was definitely a cool one.
Did you go over the jump in something fast, or was it
we ran out of time actually, because when I was coming back down, there were skiers coming down next to me, and it was the most scary thing ever. I think I was half expecting you to say that
jumped over it in the snowplow, which would have been quite something.
Oh no, I was not trusted. I don't think. Like they put out another snowplow behind me because I didn't realize how difficult it is to try and make a smooth kind of track, and I was making bumps all over the place. They had a guy that was going behind me just tidying up my mess before the skiers went down
the
it.
rally driver.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. So, I mean, so maybe we can expect to see Catie Munnings smashing a performance car around the Nordschleife for something like Top Gear in years to come. Is that something you still consider?
Well, do you know what? I was filming A League of Their Own the other day with Freddie Flintoff, with him in a rally car, Jack Whitehall, and Alex Scott. And Jamie Redknapp was there as well, actually, and it was really cool seeing the different drivers. So yeah, that will be out soon. Actually, I can't say too much about what happened, but it's it's definitely worth a watch, I think.
An insight into different driving styles, probably.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was. I went with Jack and with Freddie. Freddie obviously on Top Gear all the time. Mm-hmm. Jack hadn't even got his driving license, and we were out in an R2 Ford that is around. It is a kind of stock for the Junior World Rally Championship.
It's a proper car.
Yeah, so it was interesting. And obviously because we were filming in COVID, we had a perspex screen between us. So mm-hmm. I actually couldn't even grab the handbrake when I needed it. So yeah, I think it's quite a good watch. I'd recommend watching that one.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So I think we're coming up to the end of our time. So I've just got a few more, let's call them quick fire questions to ask. So the first of those is, do you have any racing heroes or people you particularly admire in your field?
Definitely. I think Michelle Mouton, paving the way for women in motorsport, is a big one. I think mm-hmm. Sebastian Ogier, he always seems to pull it back when everyone looks at him and thinks, oh, his race is over, or there's pressures on him now. There's no way a human can perform in that environment. He's mm-hmm. always got some mental ability that's beyond any driver I've seen. And I think lastly, probably my dad's been a big inspiration in helping me through my career at times when I would have given up. He's definitely got something in perseverance, and he's taught me a lot about holding on to your dreams. So yeah, I think they're probably my top three.
Well, that's a great answer. And on that theme of perseverance, what's the most difficult rally or rally stage you've ever raced, and why?
I think probably the Azores, when we, I still can't believe we do it, but around the rim of the volcano, right at the top, I think there's a 500-foot drop literally off the side into well, obviously it's not the crater anymore, it is, but it's because the lake at the bottom, and it's a beautiful scenery, but there's no barriers or anything. And if you go off there, that's it, big time. And I remember I nearly crashed at the top, and there's a video that I put on YouTube of it. My co-driver said, look, just take it easy around here. We've got nothing to win on this. Just get round the top bit, and then we can race down the side of it, because the stage carried on down the side. And we're literally about 5 kilometers into the stage, right at the top. What did I do? Clipped a bank and nearly, I did spin, but luckily I span the other way, not kind of into the volcano. But I think that they were talking then about moving the stage, because they, he said, the organizer said, you have no idea how hard we've worked to make this, approved by the FIA. And now you're making it look like Mario Kart. Yeah, exactly. So I think that it's not in quite the same location, but still it's an incredibly difficult rally, racing on the volcanic rock, and it's just something else.
I think that's something that people really, I think, underestimate. I suppose in real life, when you're actually there and you can see the drop, I mean, that must tighten your driving up a bit. It's just insane to think that you can just fly off this side of a mountain if you get, an input slightly wrong. I know.
And in some places, I remember for the first year that I did it, and there wasn't actually any hay bales in this section, but some years they put out hay bales like on the apex that was closest to the drop. And I just thought a hay bale is not going to stop anyone. Not in a kind of 4-wheel drive high spec rally car. You just nudge that out of the way, but I guess it makes you feel a little bit more confident.
Optimism. So I guess my last question is, I think, one where we need to set the record straight once and for all. So it's a rainy night stage in Wales. What is Catie Munnings' favourite rally stage snack? And I have to preface this by saying that when we asked David Gandy this question, he talked about his endless drives to get prawn sandwiches from M&S. So I was wondering what your snack of choice would be.
Do you know what? I love a prawn sandwich from M&S as well, but I don't normally have space for it in my rally car. Normally, I will always, and I probably know it's not the most nutritious, but it's the one that kind of gives me a little boost. I love a midday Mars bar and can of Red Bull.
Oh.
We'll have had like a really highly nutritious lunch. We'll have like energy bars with us, but there's something about a Mars bar and that taste of Red Bull. I absolutely love it halfway through the day.
Wow.
And I don't normally drink that much caffeine when I'm not racing. And I don't really eat sugary stuff either. My sister's kind of a nutritionalist, so we eat very healthily at home, and she's always recipe testing and things. So I only ever have it when I really need it. And I feel like after a long week of recce's and 4 a.m. starts, something hits you kind of halfway through the day at race day when you're in that kind of calm zone and you need to psych yourself back up and you just need it.
Well, I think that's one that the listeners should take to heart, and I think it's a good one to end on. Catie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. That was a wonderful interview. Thanks for talking to us, and all the very best in Extreme E and your future rallying outings.
Thank you very much. Thanks for chatting to me.
Thanks.